Welcome friends. Now let us focus on your amendments with respect to your registration chapter. The first amendment which is with respect to your registration chapter is your Aadhaar authentication related amendment. Non-requirement of Aadhaar authentication, friends, is given in section 25 subsection 6 capital D, where it lists out certain persons where Aadhaar authentication is not required. Normally for taking GST registration, as you are aware that you should go for Aadhaar authentication. Right, you should opt for Aadhaar authentication. If you are not opting for Aadhaar authentication, physical verification of premises will be there. So normally when you are taking a registration, you have to go for Aadhaar authentication. But this Aadhaar authentication is exempted. This Aadhaar authentication is exempted for the list which is covered in section 25 subsection 6D. Now that list has changed. Now what has not changed in that list is when you talk about individual who is not a citizen of India, even before the amendment, even after the amendment, he is not required to go for Aadhaar authentication. So this list is not changed. And any individual who is not a citizen of India, no requirement of Aadhaar authentication. But the other list has got changed. Previously there was another list. Now we are focusing on the new list which is there. If you are talking about new non-individuals, if you are talking about non-individuals who are not required to take Aadhaar authentication. Individual means if you are not citizen of India, no need to take Aadhaar authentication, no amendment. So amendment is only there when you are talking about non-individual. So non-individual list has changed. We are seeing the list, new list which is there for your exams. When you talk about department or establishment of central government, state government, no need of Aadhaar authentication. Local authority, no need of Aadhaar authentication. Statutory body, no need of Aadhaar authentication. Public sector undertaking, no need of Aadhaar authentication. Basically you are talking about government bodies and government undertakings. So if you look at the first point, it talks about central government, state government departments, local authority, first 2 points. Then you are talking about statutory body and public sector undertaking. So when you talk about the first 4 points, basically you are focusing on what? Basically you are focusing on government bodies or government undertakings. Now the last point here is person who are going for UIN registration. Basically international organizations, generally they go for UIN registration. So persons who are going for a special registration called as UIN, unique identification number, which is different from GSTIN, GST identification number. If they are going for UIN registration in terms of section 25 subsection 9, then Aadhaar authentication is not required. So you can categorize this list into 2 parts. First, for individuals, if you are not a citizen of India, no need of Aadhaar authentication. This remains the same. The change is only with respect to non-individuals. In non-individuals, categorize that again into 2. Government bodies, government undertakings and UIN. Government bodies, government undertakings and UIN. So when you talk about this categorization, individuals, non-individuals. Individuals, if you are talking about non-citizen, no need of Aadhaar authentication. Non-individuals, government body, government undertakings not required, UIN not required. UIN, no requirement of Aadhaar authentication. For all these categories, you don't require Aadhaar authentication or verification of Aadhaar number. Right. So non-individuals, that was an amendment that you have discussed. Now friends, the next amendment is in your registration process. When you are applying for registration, there is an amendment in registration process where when you are submitting your application for registration, biometric verification will be there. Friends, before we discuss this biometric verification point, understand that this point is not applicable for your December 2021 exam. The above provision of biometric verification is from a date yet to be notified. So put it in simple words. You need not read this point for December 2021 exams because it is yet to be notified. Obviously you will not find this in your ICA material, just an extra information. Now after submission of your application for registration, you have to go through biometric verification process. Again friends, you have to understand that this is not applicable for those who are exempted from Aadhaar authentication. If you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication, biometric verification is not required. If you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication, no need of biometric verification. For others, biometric verification will be there. And for others, if at all you are talking about those who have opted for Aadhaar authentication, biometric based Aadhaar authentication will be done after taking the photograph, which means every application that you make will be followed by biometric verification, biometric based Aadhaar authentication, because you have gone for Aadhaar authentication. So biometric based Aadhaar authentication will be there. Again, scanning of your face, eye retinas, thumb prints will be there along with taking the photograph. those who have not opted for Aadhaar authentication, you are required but you are not opted. For them, every application shall be followed by biometric information. Now, biometric based Aadhaar authentication cannot be done because you are not opting for Aadhaar authentication. So, biometric information will be given, photograph will be given, and other information which is required as per your KYC norms, know your customer norms, will be submitted. Now, these documents you have to give the original copy. You have to give the original copy. This biometric verification that we are talking about, you have to submit the original copies of all the documents that you are uploading in GST REG 01, where at facilitation centers which are notified by the commissioner, and only after you submit these copies it should be deemed that completion of application is deemed to be completed. Your application that you submitted is deemed to be completed. I repeat, this point is not applicable for your December 2021 exams because it is applicable from a date yet to be notified. Now, what are they telling? For those who are exempted from Aadhaar authentication, no need of biometric verification. For others who are actually to take Aadhaar authentication, you have to come for biometric verification also. And when you are coming for biometric verification, two categories. Those who are opting for Aadhaar authentication, the biometric based Aadhaar authentication will be done along with taking photograph. Those who are not opting for Aadhaar authentication, their biometric verification will be done along with your photograph information you have to give, biometric information you have to submit, photograph will be taken, and other KYC documents you have to submit. And understand that all the documents that you are submitting, you have to give, you have to take the original copies and show at certain facilitation centers which are notified by the commissioner. And only after you show that, you have to go into upload lot of documentation in your REG 01. So all those documentation, original copy, you have to go at facilitation centers, show the original copy. Only after that your application shall be deemed to be filed. It will be complete in all aspects. Right, that is all about your biometric verification. Again, I am telling this repeatedly that this is not applicable for your December 2021 exams as it is yet to be notified. It is applicable from a date yet to be notified. So this will be applicable for your May 2022 exams. Now friends, in this process, when you talk about process of your registration, it is rule 8, rule 9, rule 10. Rule 8, you submit the application. 9 is all about verification. 10 is all about grant of registration certificate. So now the next amendment is with respect to verification, right? So what have they done? They have changed the time limits. Initially, first innings for the department, when you submit the application, you have to submit within a prescribed time, within 30 days. And when department has to do its work, department has to do that work within 3 working days. Now that 3 working days is changed to 7 working days. Thereafter, if at all department is giving you notice, you have to reply to the notice. You have to reply to the notice, and after you reply, officer officer will have the same time. Now this is actually 3 working days is changed to 7 working days. This is in one situation, because when you are filing your application for registration, two things can happen. One, no physical verification is there. One, physical verification is there. One, there is no physical verification. Another, there is physical verification. If there is no physical verification of premises, then 3 working days is changed to 7 working days. If there is physical verification of premises, then the time limit was 21 days, now which is changed to 30 days. And when you talk about physical verification, normally physical verification is there in a situation where you are talking about person is not opting for Aadhaar authentication, or he is opting but failing to get his Aadhaar authenticated. Either he is not opting for Aadhaar authentication, or he is opting but it is not successful. Now they have added one more point in the category of physical verification, which is possible even before grant of registration, where a proper officer with the approval of approved officer with the approval of authorized officer by commissioner, not over the rank of assistant commissioner, deems it necessary to carry out physical verification. So proper officer now can go for physical verification of premises before the grant of registration in 3 cases. Earlier it was only 2. What are those cases? First, you are opting for Aadhaar authentication but not successful. Second, you are not opting for Aadhaar authentication at all. Third, a new point that is added, that is an amendment again. What is the new point that is added? They are trying to tell that if at all you are talking about a scenario where a proper officer who has taken the approval of authorized officer by the commissioner, authorized officer should be there, and that authorized officer by commissioner should be of a rank over and above assistant commissioner. He should be either assistant commissioner or rank above the assistant commissioner, right? he is thinking that physical verification is required. The moment physical verification is there, they tell that 7 working days is very lesser time. Let us give them 30 days for doing the action. Now, if I were to tell this amendment in a very simple language, now assessee has to apply. We are talking about assessee department. Assessee will apply for registration. Assessee will apply for registration within 30 days from the date he is liable for registration. There is no amendment here. Now department will either grant the registration or give show cause notice. Either grant the registration or give show cause notice. Either grant the registration or give show cause notice. Earlier, when you're talking about grant or show cause notice, what was the time limit? The time limit earlier was a bit complicated. I'm not entering into that complicated portion and all. I'm just giving the gist of it. Obviously, if you go in depth, you'll find there are other complications as well before the amendment. After the amendment, they have removed all those amendments. On a rough basis, they said that you have to approve it. On a rough basis, they said that you have to approve it. You have to do that work. Do that particular work. 3 working days or 21 days. 3 working days where there is no physical verification of business premises. 21 days where there is physical verification of business premises. And when I am talking about 21 days, the time limit was not so clear. There was certain confusions which we are not entering because it is not relevant after the amendment. Now, what have they done? They have said that for the department, the time limit, if there is no physical verification, the time limit is increased to 7 working days. So department will get no more working time. If at all department goes for physical verification, they now get 30 days. See, understand that these are 2 different situations. This is situation 1. This is situation 1 and this is situation 2. Situation 1 comes in a scenario where there is no physical verification. Situation 2 comes in a scenario where there is physical verification of business premises. So, department had 3 working days where there is no physical, 3 working days where there is no physical verification of premises. Now that is increased to 7 working days. Now, if at all physical verification was there, department had 21 days to take action. Now, if at all physical verification of business premises, now that 21 days is changed to 30 days. So, this is the first amendment. This is the second amendment. Now, one more amendment is there. Normally, physical verification is required where you talk about where you do not opt for Aadhaar authentication, not opting for Aadhaar authentication, or you are opting for Aadhaar authentication, but it is not successful. Now, they have added one more point. Where proper officer with the approval of authorized officer by the commissioner, who should be of a rank over and above assistant commissioner, deems fit that physical verification is required. Now, previously physical verification was there only, physical verification before grant of registration was there only in 2 cases. You are not opting for Aadhaar authentication or you are opting but it is not successful. Now they have added one more point. Where proper officer with the approval of authorized officer by the commissioner, who should be of a rank over and above assistant commissioner, thinks that physical verification needs to be done, though he is going for Aadhaar authentication and it is successful. Which means that in the third situation, you are talking about a scenario where Aadhaar authentication is opted plus it is successful. But still proper officer thinks that there is something messy here. He wants to physically verify the business premises. So that has opened up the scope. Now proper officer with the approval of authorized officer by the commissioner of a rank over and above assistant commissioner can go for physical verification of business premises even before the grant of registration certificate, even if Aadhaar authentication is opted and successful. Right. So now this is the third amendment. Right. Now, if you look at the situation after the amendment, proper officer has to do his work. What is the work of the proper officer? Proper officer either has to grant the registration or give show cause notice. Either grant the registration or give show cause notice. That is the work of the proper officer. Now, proper officers has to do the work within how much time? Earlier 3 working days, 21 days, depending on the situation. Now that 3 working days is changed to 7 working days, where there is no physical verification of premises. 21 days is changed to 30 days, where there is physical verification of premises. So when I am talking about 21 days, it was not exactly 21, I mean it was 21 days, but not to be calculated from a particular time limit. That confusion is also removed. Now it is pretty clear that it is 30 days that you have to take into account, where physical verification is there. And one more amendment that is there is physical verification of business premises before grant of registration. Earlier was in 2 cases. Before grant of registration, this physical verification is there before grant of registration. Earlier it was there in 2 situations, where you don't go for Aadhaar authentication or where you go but it is not successful. Now they have added one more thing, where you go for Aadhaar authentication and it is successful. Even then, if proper officer feels that he needs to physically verify the premises, he can do so, but with the approval of authorized officer by the commissioner of a rank over and above joint commissioner. Right. So this is the situation. These are the 3 amendments that is brought in this process of registration, rule 9. And one more point, the 4th amendment is an indirect amendment. 4th point is an indirect amendment. If proper officer is not doing his work, if proper officer is not taking any action, if proper officer is not taking any action within 7 working days or 30 days, as the case may be, the registration shall be deemed to be granted. The registration shall be deemed to be approved if no action is taken. If no action is taken within that time limit. If no action is taken, if proper officer does not take any action, either is granting the registration or show cause notice within 7 working days or 30 days, as the case may be, then the concept of deemed approval. So this is only nothing but an amendment which is consequential to the amendment which was there in point number 1 and point number 2. So this is the amendment when you are talking about the process of your registration. Now friends, the next amendment, now whatever I have explained is given here. Right, and the other thing is only clarification which was there already earlier. Now if I want to just summarize the amendment, now there are 4 categories that can be there. One is a scenario where you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication. 1, you opt, it is successful. 1, you opt, it is failure. And the last, you are not opting for Aadhaar authentication. There can be 4 situations. 1, you are exempted, the exempted list which has been amended, we have discussed. 2nd, you opt and it is successful. 3rd, you opt but not successful. 4th, you don't opt. Understand friends, biometric verification is not applicable only for the first category. For the other 3 categories, biometric verification is applicable. Only if you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication, then biometric verification is not applicable. This biometric verification is applicable from a date yet to be notified, but again understand that if you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication, biometric verification is also not there. But in all the other 3 cases, biometric verification is applicable. If you are opting, it is successful. If you are opting, it is failure. Or if you are not at all opting, it is applicable in all the other 3 cases. Second, when you talk about what is the date of from which date it is deemed that your registration has been submitted. What is the date of submission of your application? Because only after your registration application is submitted, the time limit for the officer of 7 working days, 30 days will start. 7 working days or 30 days, as the case maybe, will start. If you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication, friends, then the time limit is actual date of submission. Actual date of submission of REG-01. If at all you are opting for Aadhaar authentication and it is successful, the date of submission of application is date when Aadhaar authentication happens, date of authentication of Aadhaar number. You may have submitted application earlier, but when Aadhaar authentication is happening, that is the date of submission. See why this date of submission is important, because only from this particular date of submission your 7 working days or 30 days will start, as the case may be, will start. So when you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication, it will start from date of actual submission of REG-01. If you are opting and it is successful, it will start from date of Aadhaar being authenticated, when Aadhaar authentication is successful. When Aadhaar authentication is successful, not when you actually submit it, but when Aadhaar authentication is successful. If you are submitting if you are going for Aadhaar authentication and it is not successful, it is the date of submission of application will start from 15 days of date of submission of part B of REG-01, after 15 days. So if you are submitting your application, you have gone for Aadhaar authentication but it is a failure. then your submission date will neither be the date of submission of application. There cannot be Aadhaar application date because it is not successful. It will be 15 days from the date of submission of Part B of REG01. 15 days. So that 15 days will be not counted when 7 working days or 30 days is calculated. So your submission, your application will be deemed to be submitted only on the completion of 15 days from the submission of Part B of REG01. If at all you are talking about a scenario where you have gone for Aadhaar application but not successful, right? And friends, when you are talking about you have not at all opted for Aadhaar authentication, then it is the actual date of submission. Actual date of submission. So in two cases, it is actual date of submission. If you are talking about if you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication, it is actual date of submission. If you are not opting for Aadhaar authentication, it is actual date of submission of application. The answer is different for you are opting for Aadhaar. If you are opting for Aadhaar authentication, it is successful. Then it is date of Aadhaar authentication being successful. If you are opting for Aadhaar authentication and it is not successful, then it is very special point. The date of submission of application will be treated as 15 days after the submission of Part B. So only from that date, officer will calculate his time limit of 7 working days or 30 days as the case may be. Now, physical verification before grant of registration. Physical verification before grant of registration. Now, it is mandatory. Physical verification before grant of registration is mandatory for the last two cases where Aadhaar authentication has failed or you have not opted for Aadhaar authentication, then mandatory physical verification before grant of registration will be there. Mandatory. Officer does not have an option, but he has to mandatorily go for physical verification of premises. Exception being with the approval of Joint Commissioner, relaxation may be there and physical verification may be ignored. Instead of physical verification, documents may be verified. That is an exception. So normally, if you are gone for Aadhaar authentication but it is failed, serious matter. If you are not at all opted for Aadhaar authentication, serious matter. Mandatory physical verification of business premises will be there. The only relaxation is Joint Commissioner may relax it. Now, for the other situation where you are talking about you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication or you are going for Aadhaar authentication plus it is successful. In those cases, friends, understand that physical verification before grant of registration can be there, but it is optional. It is not mandatory, it is optional. Now, this option has to be exercised by, in what situation? This option has to be exercised in a situation where proper officer is taking the approval of an authorized officer of a rank more than or equal to assistant commissioner. So proper officer has to take permission from authorized officer by the commissioner, who should be of a rank more than or equal to assistant commissioner. Then that optional physical verification before grant of registration can be allowed. So these points, though few points are amendment, I mean this is the summary of what you get when you are talking about all the situations. So you can always categorize the situations into 4 parts: Aadhaar authentication, exempted, Aadhaar authentication, opted plus success, Aadhaar authentication, opted plus failure, Aadhaar authentication not at all opted. You don't want to go for Aadhaar authentication. Biometric verification. If I talk about the moment I talk about biometric verification, which is yet to be notified, it is applicable from a date yet to be notified. It is not required for the first category. For the other 3 categories, it is required. Second, what is the date of submission of your application for registration? This will be relevant to calculate 7 working days or 30 days time for the department. So when it is assumed that you have submitted your application. So when you talk about the first and the last case, it is the actual date of submission. Actual date of submission, where you are exempted from Aadhaar authentication or you are not opting. It is, things are very clear. So it starts from the actual date of submission of REG01. But if you have opted for Aadhaar authentication and it is successful, it is date of Aadhaar authentication being successful. So that date. If you are opted for Aadhaar authentication and it is failure, it is start on 15 days from the date of submission of your REG01. Part B. Part A is only automatic, it's only Part B always. So that is important. Always it will start only from Part B, never it will start from Part A. Now, physical verification of business premises before grant of registration. Before grant of registration. Understand that in the last two cases, it is mandatory. Mandatory. Now this can be relaxed. This can be relaxed if at all you are talking about. This can be relaxed if at all you are talking about taking the permission from Joint Commissioner. In the first two cases where Aadhaar authentication is exempted or you have opted and successful, it is not required. Before grant of registration is not required. Not required. It is optional. It is not required. Not required. Basically, if you want to go, you can go. Normally not required, but if you want to go, you can go, but you have to take the permission of authorized officer by commissioner having a rank more than equal to assistant commissioner. So this is this entire situation, right? So after the amendment, this situation is a bit changed. Now that is all about your process of registration and the related amendments. Now let us focus on, there are certain amendments in cancellation and suspension. Rather, the amendments are more when you talk about cancellation and suspension. When you talk about cancellation, cancellation can be bifurcated into two parts. The first part being cancellation by assessee or department. So in the first part, you are talking about cancellation either by assessee or by department. Anyone can go. When you talk about section 29 of CGST Act, anyone can go. Anyone, either by assessee or by department. That is the first part. The second part is only when you are talking about cancellation only and only by department. So there you have to read section 29 read along with rule 21. Cancellation by assessee or by department, only section 29. Cancellation only and only by department, not by assessee. That is section 29 read along with rule 21. Now cancellation by assessee or by department, anyone can do. That is given only in section 29, no rule is required. Now in one of the reasons they have amended it. What is that amendment? They have said that if a taxable person is no longer liable for registration under section 22 or 24, he can cancel his registration, or he opts out of registration voluntarily, which he has taken voluntary registration under section 25 subsection 3. Friends, this point was causing a bit trouble. Supposing if I am taken a voluntary registration, I was never liable for registration, so talking about no longer liable for registration does not make sense. See, the language is no longer liable to be registered. So when a person is taking voluntary registration, he was never liable for registration, so he may not be covered here. This was causing some technical issues, because technically if you are talking about a person who has obtained voluntary registration can cancel his RC only if the business is discontinued. So technically there was some issue. The person who has taken voluntary registration, he cannot be covered here. A person who has taken voluntary registration, why he cannot be covered here? Because they are telling that a person who is no longer liable for registration under section 22 or 24, he can go out. He can go out. But a person who has taken voluntary registration, he was never ever liable for registration. So when he was never ever liable for registration, these wordings were causing a trouble. No longer liable. So when he was never liable, no longer liable does not make any sense. Now a person who has taken voluntary registration was having a problem, because he can apply for cancellation only and only in a situation where he is discontinuing his business or transferring his business. But if he wants to run his business but still cancel the registration, there was some problem. What they did, they amended it and they said that okay, we'll add this point for the person who has taken voluntary registration. A person who has taken voluntary registration can opt out of the voluntary registration. So post amendment, such person who has taken voluntary registration can cancel his RC without discontinuing the business or without transferring the business. He can run the business. But he can cancel his registration certificate. So this amendment was because of technical difficulty for a person who has taken voluntary registration. I repeat, a person who has taken voluntary registration, earlier before the amendment, technically he can cancel his registration only if he is stopping his business, discontinuing his business or transferring his business. Now after the amendment, he can cancel his registration without discontinuance of business, which means he can cancel his registration but his business will still continue. He can cancel his registration but his business will still continue. Why? A person who has taken voluntary registration can never be covered by this part. What is the first part? Taxable person who is no longer liable for registration under section 22, 24. So here a taxable person who is no longer liable for registration under section 22, 24 will never cover a person who has taken voluntary registration. Why? He was never liable. So the wordings were not helping me out, helping that person out. Now a person who has taken voluntary registration due to some reasons best known to him, he can still go out of his registration. He can still apply for cancellation if he feels, because they have added a wordings, a taxable person who intends to opt out of the voluntary registration which he has made under section 25 subsection 3. So this technical difficulty is removed for a person who has voluntarily registered. So that is the amendment in section 29. Right, section 29 talks about cancellation by assessee or cancellation by department. Section 29 read along with rule 21. Section 29 read along with your rule 21 talks about cancellation only by department. Suo motu cancellation only and only by department, not by assessee. Basically, the amendment now is there, friends, in rule 21. There is a list of categories where department suo motu can cancel the registration certificate. In that list, they have added a few points. A very important, interesting points. They have added a few points. A person, and they are very dangerous points. Very dangerous points. A person who is availing ITC in contravention of section 16 or the rules, that is rule 36, rule 37. So if I am availing ITC which is against the section 16 or rule 36, rule 37 as the case may be, wrong availment of ITC can be a reason for suo motu cancellation by department. So dangerous. Wrong availment of ITC can be a reason for suo motu cancellation by officer. It is highly dangerous. So even if you have availed some small portion of wrong credit, department can tell that no, your registration is now cancelled. We are starting the process of suo motu cancellation. So this is highly dangerous. Now the other point that they have added is a person whose outward supplies in GSTR 1 is more compared to GSTR 1 was filed under section 37 is more when you compare to outward supplies which is filing in his GSTR 3B under section 39. Logical point. So if you are showing more outward supplies in GSTR 1, you are enabling the opposite party recipient to take more credit based on his GSTR 2A to B. But your outward supplies, that is sales, in GSTR 1 is more than what is reported in GSTR 3B. Friends, you have to understand that a regular taxable person and casual taxable person will file two returns, GSTR 1, GSTR 3B. GSTR 1 is nothing but outward supplies, details of outward supplies. GSTR 3B is the final return, summary return which is filed. Now only along with GSTR 3B payment will be there. GSTR 1 there will be only details, no payment. Only details, no payment. So if I tell your outward supplies, that is your sales, your outward supplies is more. Your outward supplies in GSTR 1 is more than your outward supplies in GSTR 3B. Always understand that in GSTR 3B you will have outward supplies as well as input tax credit. In one we will be having only outward supplies. Right. So if I tell your outward supplies in GSTR 1 is more than GSTR 3B, you are making lesser payment. You are making lesser payment. First implication is you are making lesser payment. Second implication is you are allowing more ITC for the recipient. For your customer, you are allowing more ITC for your recipient, because whatever you are filing in your GSTR 1 will go and sit in the recipient's GSTR 2A or 2B. So these were the two problems, genuine problems for the department. So if you are having your outward supplies more in your GSTR 1 than compared to GSTR 3B, there were two genuine problems. Supplier pays lesser payment. So the supplier who is filing this returns, he makes lesser payment. So the supplier ends up making lesser payment because payment is only connected with GSTR 3B. Whereas recipient is taking more credit because whatever you are filing in GSTR 1 will go and sit in GSTR 2A, 2B of the recipient. Because of these dual problems, they have said that no, if supplier is doing that, then that supplier's registration is liable for suo motu cancellation by department. So department can start cancellation proceedings. A very logical point, although. But the first point was not logical. First point is a very dangerous point. I don't know why they have given this. Just because I availed some wrong credit as per section 16 read along with rule 36 or 37, that cannot give the powers to the officers to start suo motu cancellation proceedings. So first point is highly dangerous. First point of amendment The second point is fairly enough. The third point of amendment talks about a situation. Again, third point is highly dangerous. If you are not complying with Rule 86B, what is Rule 86B? Certain notified persons have to pay at least 1% of output tax liability by cash ledger. We have discussed that in the amendment as well. So, minimum 1% of your output tax liability you have to pay by cash ledger. So, we have discussed your Rule 86B in the earlier part of the amendments. We have thoroughly discussed that. If you are not complying with Rule 86B, which means if you are a notified person covered under Rule 86B, minimum 1% of your output liability you have to pay by cash. If you are paying more, no issues. But at least 1% of your output liability other than RCM, you have to pay it by your cash ledger. If you are not doing that, again it is liable for cancellation. So they have added 3 new grounds of cancellation for suo motu, 3 new grounds for suo motu cancellation by department. First point is highly dangerous. Third point is dangerous. Second point is logical. First point talks about you are availing credit which is not in terms of section 16 or rule 36, 37. Highly dangerous point. This should not have been there as per our understanding. Second point, very logical point. Your outward supplies in GSTR 1 happens to be more than your outward supplies in GSTR 3B, which means a supplier is paying lesser output tax and it is allowing the recipient to claim more input tax credit. There might be reasons for that. You explain the reasons. Understand that when suo motu cancellation starts, they will ask you for the reasons. If you submit the proper reasons, no worries. It will not cancel just like that. You will be given an opportunity. And third point is if you are not complying with Rule 86B, which means if you are a notified person, minimum 1% of your output tax liability other than RCM should be paid by cash ledger. If you are not complying with that, your registration can be cancelled suo motu. So 3 new grounds have been added in Rule 21 for suo motu cancellation by department, section 29 read along with Rule 21. Now friends, when you talk about this suo motu cancellation, there is a corresponding consecutional amendment. In suo motu cancellation, there is a process. In that process, they have added suo motu cancellation by department. Officer will be serving notice, assessor will get 7 days time to reply, and officer will have 30 days time. So in that part, they have added a point. They have added a point that reply will be submitted by assessee under either Rule 22 or Rule 21A2A. Rule 21A2A is the new point. Rule 21A2A. What is this Rule 21A2A? This talks about suspension. This talks about suspension. Friends, this point you can understand when we are discussing the suspension. Right. So if you see the wordings of the amendment, you may not understand now, but when you are seeing this amendment in suspension, automatically you will understand. This is consequential amendment because of amendment in Rule 21A, suspension. So when we see Rule 21A, you will understand that why this amendment has come in the process of suo motu cancellation. So this point we will leave to suspension. When we discuss suspension of registration as per your Rule 21 capital A, automatically the consequential amendment which is there in your Rule 22, you will understand. Automatically the amendment in Rule 22 you will understand. So we will leave it to suspension. So when we discuss this, we will come back here and we will understand it. Now friends, the next amendment is there in your revocation process. Is there in your revocation process. If your registration is cancelled by department, you can again go for revocation. If at all your registration is cancelled by yourself, you cannot go for revocation. If department has started cancellation proceedings and your registration has been cancelled, it is actually cancelled, after proceeding it is cancelled, you can go for revocation as per section 30. Now friends, what have they said is, when you talk about revocation, after your registration has been cancelled, you have to apply for revocation. You have to apply for revocation within 30 days. Now what they have said, they have extended time limit. That 30 days time limit can be extended by another 30 days by additional commissioner, joint commissioner, which can be further extended by another maximum 30 days by commissioner on sufficient cause being shown, and reasons has to be recorded in writing by the additional commissioner, joint commissioner or commissioner as the case may be. Right. So if I were to tell this amendment, we are talking about cancellation by assessee himself, cancellation initiated by department. Department can initiate cancellation proceedings both under section 29 as well as under Rule 21. So department can start cancellation proceedings in any case. Right, assessee can go for cancellation only in certain cases, whereas department can go in the cases mentioned in section 29 as well as in Rule 21. If assessee has gone for cancellation, revocation is not possible. You cannot go for revocation. If department has started cancellation, revocation is possible. When I tell revocation, understand that GST number is cancelled. Your GST number is finally cancelled. Cancellation proceeding started and GST number is finally cancelled. When you go for revocation, when a department has started revocation cancellation proceedings and your GST number has been cancelled, it started cancellation proceedings and it has completed the proceedings and GST number is cancelled, then friends, you can go for revocation. You can go for revocation. The time limit is 30 days from the date of cancellation order. 30 days from the date of cancellation order. What is the amendment? This 30 days can be extended by another 30 days, maximum 30 days by joint commissioner or additional commissioner, which can be further extended by another maximum 30 days by commissioner. And that should be sufficient cause for the same, plus the reasons has to be recorded in writing. Right, so the only amendment here is when you are going for revocation, earlier assessee had only 30 days time from the date of cancellation order. Now that 30 days from the date of cancellation order, first time extension is possible by joint commissioner, additional commissioner, maximum 30 days. Second time extension is possible by commissioner, another maximum 30 days. And in both the extension, there are two extensions, first extension, second extension. That should be sufficient cause for the extension asked, and the joint commissioner, additional commissioner, or the commissioner, as the case may be, should record the reasons in writing. So you are talking about two extension, first extension and second extension. First extension and second extension. At times it is difficult within 30 days of cancellation order, you may not be in a position to apply for revocation. So they have given first extension plus second extension. So that is the amendment in your revocation. That is section 30 of your CGST Act. Now friends, our entire focus is on suspension of registration. Suspension of registration is in terms of section 29 read along with rule 21A. So amendment is there. You have amendments in section 29 and your rule 21 capital A. Rule 21 capital A. Friends, understand that rule 21 capital A talks about suspension in two cases earlier. One, where a registered person has applied for cancellation, suspension in that scenario. Second, where a proper officer has started cancellation proceedings, suspension in that scenario. Section rule 21A sub rule 1, rule 21A sub rule 2. Now they have added one more. They have added one more ground. So previously there were only two grounds, two reasons for suspension. One, assessee has started cancellation proceedings, suspension will be there, rule 21A sub rule 1. One proper officer has started cancellation proceedings, suspension will be there as per rule 21A sub rule 2. Now third is a special case. Third is a special case where proper officer has started some proceedings, but this is a very special case which has been amended or introduced now. Now what are the amendments? In the first case there is no amendment. Earlier there were two cases of suspension, now there are three cases of suspension. That is the first amendment. Second amendment, in the second case of suspension, what was there earlier is when proper officer is starting cancellation proceedings, as per cancellation proceedings, suspension can be there as per rule 21A sub rule 2. See, cancellation proceedings, when it starts, it may first lead to suspension. During the cancellation proceedings there will be suspension. Cancellation will not be done immediately, it will take some time. During the cancellation proceedings there will be suspension of registration, which is discussed in rule 21 capital A. Now that cancellation proceedings, if it is started by officer, it is discussed in rule 21A sub rule 2 in terms of suspension. If proper officer has started cancellation, then suspension will be there as per rule 21A sub rule 2. The amendment there is earlier when proper officer starts cancellation followed by suspension, the point was proper officer has reasons to believe that registration of a person is liable to be cancelled as per section 29 or rule 21. Proper officer may, after giving a reasonable opportunity of being heard, suspend the registration. Now what is the amendment is, without even giving an opportunity of being heard, suspension will be there. Now don't worry, opportunity of being heard will be there for cancellation proceedings, but for suspension proper officer will decide suo motu. For suspension proper officer will decide suo motu. So when proper officer is starting cancellation proceedings, when proper officer starts cancellation proceedings, during the cancellation proceedings, it will take some time, starting point and end time, so cancellation proceedings will take its own sweet time, start time and end time, starting of cancellation proceedings, end of cancellation proceedings. Between this time you will have suspension, between this time you may have suspension of registration, which is optional, suspension of registration which is optional. This is optional by the assessee, optional by the officer will do. Officer is starting cancellation proceedings, officer will suspend the registration. Between what time? During the cancellation proceedings, officer will decide. Now when suspension will start, earlier suspension will be done only after principle of natural justice, only after giving an opportunity of being heard. Principle of natural justice, nothing but opportunity of being heard. Now what is the amendment that they are bringing? Now they are telling that proper officer can start suspension, he can immediately suspend the registration without giving any opportunity. Please understand that though there is no opportunity given for suspending the registration, during the cancellation proceedings, for sure principle of natural justice will be there, opportunity of being heard will be there. So this remains. So what is the amendment that they have brought here in your Rule 21A sub rule 2, where it talks about proper officer starting the cancellation proceedings? If proper officer starting the cancellation proceedings, if proper officer wants, he may suspend the registration during that proceedings. During that proceedings, he may suspend it. But previously, before the amendment, when he is suspending the registration, he has to give an opportunity to the assessee. Now that opportunity will not be given. So proper officer will decide on his own and he will suspend the registration. So that is the amendment that is there. That is the amendment which is there. And understand that the suspension of registration by proper officer is optional. Proper officer, if he wants, he will do. So there is no amendment here. If he wants, he will do. If he does not want, he will not do. If he does not want, he will not do. So this is the amendment in your Rule 21A sub rule 2, where proper officer has started cancellation proceedings and proper officer during the cancellation proceedings is suspending the registration. The point here is, earlier when he is suspending the registration, he has to give an opportunity to the assessee. Now for suspending, there is no need of any opportunity to be given to the assessee. He may determine, he may decide and he may suspend the registration. That is optional to him, but he may decide on his own. No need of opportunity to be given to the assessee. Now, this is the first amendment which is there. Now the second amendment which is there, second amendment which is there is the new reason for suspension. Now they have added a new reason for suspension. What is that new reason? If at all, on comparison of returns which are filed by the assessee under section 39, if proper officer finds that the outward supplies in GSTR 1 is more than outward supplies in GSTR 3B, I think we have discussed that problem. The problem here is, if your outward supplies in 1 is more than 3B, you are paying lesser output tax because payment is only conducted with 3B, whereas you are allowing the recipient to take more input tax credit, because when you file more outward supplies in GSTR 1, recipient will get more details in his 2A, 2B, where he may take more credit. Or your inward supplies will come automatically in GSTR 2A, 2B. You are taking more input tax credit in GSTR 3B compared to what is coming in GSTR 2B. Your input tax credit, we have discussed in amendment that what is the maximum ITC that you can avail in GSTR 3B? It is ITC, eligible ITC as per books, or eligible ITC as per GSTR 2B plus ad hoc 5%. Now you are taking more credit. So your credit in GSTR 3B is more than your GSTR 2B plus 5%. Or any such other analysis that is carried out which shows significant differences or anomalies, when you are talking about which shows significant differences or anomalies which gives an impact to the officer that there is some contravention in the act or rules leading to cancellation. See, either you are doing analysis, or proper officer is doing analysis from the returns filed. He is not doing some extra thing from the returns file, or on comparison of the returns which the assessee has filed under section 39. He finds that a particular assessee is showing outward supplies more in 1 compared to 3B, or a particular assessee is claiming more input tax credit in GSTR 3B compared to what is appearing in GSTR 2B, or such and such other analysis which he does, which is said by government on recommendation of council. He is doing some other analysis based on the details appearing automatically on the portal, and he finds that there are significant differences or anomalies which will lead to cancellation, which will actually lead to cancellation of registration. What he can do? His registration shall be suspended, and he will be intimated that there are certain differences through common portal or by sending a mail highlighting what are the differences or anomalies are there, and he will be given a time to explain those differences within 30 days as to why his registration should not be cancelled. So here proper officer is again starting. So first is a scenario where you are talking about assessee going for cancellation and there is suspension done by the officer. Second is officer going by for cancellation and proper officer suspending the registration. Third is proper officer, you are talking about proper officer but in special case. So proper officer is doing some desk work by comparing the returns. He finds that a particular assessee's outward supplies in GSTR 1 is more than GSTR 3B, or a particular assessee's inward supplies, that is input tax credit, is more in GSTR 3B compared to his GSTR 2B, or such other analysis he does based on the recommendation of counsel, where he finds huge differences or anomalies which may lead to cancellation. So what he will do? He will suspend the registration and it will be intimated to the particular assessee on common portal or through mail, and that intimation when it will show the differences or anomalies. Along with, in that mail, it will show what are the differences or anomalies which are there, and it will give 30 days time to the assessee to give his reply why these differences are there and why his registration should not be cancelled. Right. So this point is very special point. Proper officer is doing desk review of returns, desk review of all the returns, basic review of the returns where he is finding certain differences or anomalies. Now friends, this is very peculiar, because here in special case by proper officer, what is happening? Cancellation is not initiating. First it is suspension followed by cancellation. Now let us see that particular differentiation chart. So when you talk about suo motu cancellation by proper officer and suo motu cancellation by proper officer, one is general case, one is special case. We have differentiated two. What is the general case? Proper officer believes that registration of a person should be cancelled as per section 29 or rule 21. So assessee's case is falling either under section 29 or rule 21. Proper officer thinks that his registration should be cancelled. Whereas special case is a scenario, comparison of returns shows significant differences or anomalies leading to cancellation. Rule 21A 2A, the new part, rule 21A 2A. So normally when proper officer is finding the reasons, there are list of reasons where proper officer can cancel the registration mentioned in section 29, rule 21. So that is a normal case where proper officer will start suo motu cancellation. But here proper officer is comparing the returns and he finds significant differences or anomalies which may lead to cancellation, which is mentioned in rule 21A sub rule 2A. Now normally the sequence is, normal general case, the sequence is cancellation proceedings will start followed by suspension of registration. But in this special case, what is important is first suspension of registration starts followed by cancellation proceedings. If you see this point, you will clearly understand that in the first two cases, rule 21A sub rule 1, assessee goes for cancellation followed by suspension by the officer. In the second case, proper officer goes for cancellation followed by suspension by the officer himself. In the third case, cancellation proceedings is yet to start. So first it is suspension on comparison of returns. If there are significant differences or anomalies, first proper officer will suspend the registration. Then cancellation proceedings will start. A very special or peculiar scenario. So normal scenario, cancellation proceedings is followed, thereafter there will be suspension of registration. But here there is suspension of registration which is followed by cancellation proceedings. In normal scenario, assessee will get 7 days from the from 7 working days from show cause notice to reply to the cancellation notice, cancellation proceedings. But here the assessee will get 30 days after intimation. If you have seen that point, the officer will send through common portal or through mail the differences or the anomalies, asking the assessee to explain the differences or anomalies within 30 days of intimation. So here there is no notice, there is an intimation. Time limit for the assessee is 30 days. And after the assessee replies, normally it is 7 working days. In the special case it is 30 days, officer will take action within 30 days of the reply in both the cases. This point is, friends, is common point. All the other points are actually difference. So normally when you talk about cancellation by officer, normally, so if I am talking about cancellation by officer, proper officer, I have to segregate. One, because of section 21 or rule 21 where new points have been added. 3 new points have been added. Second, it is rule 21A 2A. That is the first difference. That is the first difference. Second, here cancellation proceeding starts because office assessee has done, it is covered by the listed activities. It is covered by the listed activities. Here in rule 21A 2A, you are talking about on comparison of returns. There are significant differences or anomalies. Outward supplies is more in 1 compared to 3B. Lesser payment of output tax. Inward supplies, is more in GSTR 3B compared to 2B. More input tax credit is claimed. Or certain other analysis which is done on recommendation of council which shows significant differences or anomalies which may lead to cancellation of registration. So that is an important point. Now third, here what happens is, first it is cancellation proceedings. First cancellation proceeding starts, followed by suspension of registration. But here first suspension of registration starts, and that may be resulting in cancellation proceedings. Very peculiar, very special. Fourth, assessee has got 7 working days time for replying to the show cause notice issued. If officer is starting the cancellation proceedings, he will get a show cause notice. He has 7 working days time to reply. But here in rule 21A 2A, assessee will get 30 days time, and that too from intimation. So here it is 7 working days from show cause notice. Here there is no notice. Here 30 days from the date of intimation, which will give the differences and ask the assessee to explain the differences. And finally, when you are talking about the common point is officer will have 30 days time after reply to decide whether to cancel or not. So these are the important differences which will make you understand the amendments in a more clear manner. Right. And also one point, friends, and that was the reason when you have seen this cancellation process, you would have found a point where in the cancellation process they have included, when assessee replies, the officer will have 30 days time. They have included the time for officer in terms of rule 22, reply by the assessee to the notice will be 7 working days in terms of rule 22, but reply by the assessee to the intimation will be 30 days from intimation in terms of rule 21 2A. So this is a consequential amendment. See, officer will have 30 days time after reply, but assessee will reply within what time? If it is a normal case, assessee will reply within 7 working days, and that is given in rule 22. If it is a special case, assessee will reply within 30 days, not of notice but of intimation. That is a special point in terms of rule 21A 2A. So that is a consequential amendment in the process of suo motu, cancellation. So that was a consequential amendment which we have discussed. Now friends, in suspension we have discussed 2 amendments. We have already discussed 2 amendments. The first amendment was suspension in case of suo motu cancellation proceedings by proper officer. That was the first amendment. Second amendment is a new point, a special case. A special case has been added. That is the second amendment. And the consequential amendment is everywhere during suspension. You cannot make any taxable supply, and you are not required to file any return. So you cannot make a supply with tax invoice. You cannot file any return. So previously what was covered was only rule 21A1, rule 21A2. Now what they have covered? Also they have covered rule 21A2A, normal point. So during the period of suspension, you cannot have taxable supply with tax invoice. You cannot give tax invoice, and you are not required to file any return. Previously the coverage was only for rule 21A1, rule 21A2. Now you have a new point, therefore they have added rule 21A2A. So this is a small simple amendment, third amendment. Simple consequential amendment, no impact. Obviously it should be included. Now another important point that they have added, very important point that they have added, fourth amendment, that if at all your suspension is the registration is suspended, you will not be granted refund. You will not be granted refund. A registered person whose registration has been suspended either under 21A1, 21A2 or 21, rather not 21A1, a registered person whose registration has been suspended by officer under 21A2 or 21A2A, both are by proper officer, one proper officer general, another proper officer special. He shall not be granted any refund during the period of suspension. So when proper officer is starting the suspension cancellation proceedings under 21A2, suspension will be given, or 21A2A, first suspension will be there followed by cancellation. In these two cases, assessee will not be granted any refund. The important point to notice, you are not allowed to grant, the refund will not be granted. The refund will not be granted. Refund will not be granted, but you can make refund application. Officer will not grant you refund. So grant of refund is not allowed. But can assessee make refund application? Yes. Officer will not grant any refund. As officer has started suspension, officer will not grant any refund till the suspension is over. But can assessee apply for refund? That is allowed. Officer will not grant any refund during that suspension period. That is the fourth amendment. And friends, fifth amendment which is there. Again, in the fifth amendment, first part is very simple. Revocation of suspension can be there for all the three cases, 21A1, 21A2, also now 21A2A. Revocation can be there. If officer is convinced, he can revoke it. When it revoke means cancellation of suspension. Revocation of suspension means cancellation of suspension. Officer is satisfied that assessee is doing nothing wrong and his suspension can be revoked. Now, first amendment here is they have added even rule 21A2A. Second amendment here is suspension may be revoked by officer anytime even during the pendency of the proceedings of cancellation. Normally, revocation is given on completion of cancellation proceedings. After completion of cancellation proceedings, if officer finds that okay, assessee, there's nothing wrong in assessee continuing the registration, he will revoke the suspension. So normally revocation of suspension is given by the officer when cancellation proceedings ends, and it is giving a positive result for the assessee. But they have added a point, if proper officer wants, he may revoke the suspension anytime, even during the pendency of proceedings of cancellation. So that power is given to the officer. That power is given to the, I repeat, normally revocation of suspension means everything is fine with the assessee, let him continue his normal work. So that is revocation of suspension. Normally that is allowed when cancellation proceedings ends and officer thinks that it need not be cancelled, assessee is doing everything right, or whatever mistakes he has done, he has rectified, it need not be cancelled. So when they stop cancellation proceedings and when they think that assessee can continue his registration, suspension will be revoked. There they have added even rule 21A, sub rule 2A. Important point is, even during the cancellation proceeding is going on. This is positive amendment. Cancellation proceeding is going on, and it is not ended, but officer thinks that this assessee has not done prima facie anything wrong, but cancellation proceedings is still going on. So what officer can do? He can think, okay, prima facie I find everything fine with you, so I am revoking your suspension, you continue your normal registration, but cancellation proceedings is yet to end. Finally, I'll decide after 15 days or 20 days or a month of other small aspects. So this gives the officer power to revoke the suspension and allow the assessee to do his normal work, which means he can raise tax invoice, he can file GST returns along with the proceedings being continued. So assessee, proper officer finds that assessee prima facie has not done some gross error, therefore he may continue his registration, suspension is revoked, yet cancellation proceedings is yet to come. It has not completed finally, but it is yet to come, but prima facie proper officer thinks that assessee has not done some gross errors. So that power is now given to officer. This will help in genuine cases where proper officer starts cancellation proceedings. He is sure that assessee has not done some gross errors, but it will still take some time to investigate it thoroughly. He may revoke the suspension, let proper officer, let assessee raise tax invoice, collect GST, let assessee file returns. Cancellation proceedings will continue, but assessee cannot continue his own work as well. So that power is very important amendment for the assessee's point of view. Right, power is given to officer, but that is a good news for assessee. Friends, these are all the amendments when you're talking about your registration chapter. In suspension, totally there are 5 amendments, and each of the amendments we have discussed. So all these amendments are there in your registration chapter.